Never in the history of evangelism have we had such slow church growth as we are having right now. And I asked the Lord, what's wrong? What are we doing wrong? And the Lord began to speak to me that look back into history of the church and look at how people before you did evangelism. So I went back and began to look at different people, how they evangelized the world. I started with Paul, who was one of the greatest evangelists of our time after the resurrection of the Lord. Paul went to Athens. The first time he went, he preached resurrection to the people of Athens. And they were lukewarm. They really weren't listening to him. So he went back, he prayed, and he went back to Athens the second time. And this time he looked around, tried to study the people of Athens, their culture, their ways of life, what they believed in, how they do what they do. So as he went around, he saw that they were into idol worship. They had so many goddesses all around. But he saw a particular one that they did not give a name to. They had names like Zeus, they had other names. But there was one that had no name. They even had names like Jupiter. There was a time they called Paul himself Jupiter or something like that. But they had one that had no name, and all they had inscripted on it was, to the unknown God. And so as he inquired more about this, he knew that they were referring to the Creator God. So he began to minister to them, and he told them that the one that you said is to an unknown God is the same one I'm trying to preach to you. I even told them that one of your poets said that we are his offspring, that we are the offspring of God, that we came out of the womb of God. Literally, metaphorically, that was what it meant, that we came out of God himself, that one of their poets said that we are the offspring of God. And when they heard that, they began to listen more to him. You remember the first time he went, he preached resurrection. But because the Greeks were very cerebral people, they did not listen to him because they could not envisage, they could not imagine a human being resurrecting. But when he went back and spoke about what they could relate to, they listened to him. And from that vantage point, he began to draw them towards Christ. And he was able to evangelize and bring a lot of them to Christ. Then I fast forwarded to our time. A pastor in 1962, Don Richardson, went to a remote part of Africa, the Sawi people, forgotten people, savages, treacherous people. He and his wife and a 7-month-old baby decided to go and live among these people. People that were treacherous, but they were savages, people that could actually kill them. But God sent him. God spoke to him, and he went. Now, mind you, he didn't go for one-day mission trip, 6 months mission trip. He went and stayed there for a long time. He studied the people. And as he was living with them, he tried, just like Paul did, to minister to them about Jesus. And as he was ministering to them, he told them about Judas kissing Jesus and yet betraying him. And when the Sawi people heard that, they started laughing and they were happy about a treacherous person. They weren't happy. They didn't care about Jesus. They thought Judas was a hero and Jesus was a kind of a wimp. So he thought, how am I going to reach these people? Lord, I'm in a dilemma here. So as he began to pray again, God spoke to him, and Don Richardson changed his ways. As he studied the people, he heard about a culture they had. Now, these were people, had a lot of warring tribes among them. But he heard about the culture they had about a peace child, that if two parties are having conflict and they are warring among each other, one of the tribes has to bring a peace child and offer it to the other tribe. So when the wars were too much, this was going on when it was there was a particular time he ministered to them. No, this wasn't administration. He actually saw them looking for someone who could give up his child for the other tribe. And even people with a lot of children were reluctant to do that because they hated the other tribes too much to give up any of their children. But there was one single person who had only one child. This guy, a young man with one child, decided on his own to give up his child so that there could be peace. His only child, his only begotten child, he gave it up so that there could be peace between the two tribes. And when Don Richardson saw that, he picked up on that and told them that the same way that you are doing this, and now you are having peace because this child is being given to the other tribe to train, and because they are training him like their own child, there will be peace among you. Same way, God sent his only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace, to bring peace to the world. And when they had that, they were able to relate to the story of Jesus. And in fact, they told him that, how come you didn't tell us this before? We thought Judas was the right person, but you didn't tell us that he was a peace child. You see, they related to the story from the peace child point of view. They didn't relate to it from the other point of view of being betrayed, because they thought in their own culture betrayal was a good thing, was a hip thing, if I can use that colloquial term. It was in their culture something that they do on a regular basis. But they related to the peace child part of it. Why am I saying this? We have to begin to look at the culture or the subculture of people we are trying to minister to. Now fast forward again. I listened to Leonard Sweet, another professor of theology. He said something one day recently. He said, when we go around trying to minister to people, it seems as if there's a sort of arrogance in the way we minister. We tell them we want to bring God to them. But we forget that every human being already has God in them because he's their creator. What we should be saying is we're trying to help them find the God is in them that they've forgotten about. That is what we've been saying. And that way of evangelism will be better off than the way we evangelize. Now I want to introduce to you a friend of mine who has caught this vision of modern day evangelism, of meeting people where they are, looking at what they know best, what they do best, their subculture, their way of life, their behavior, the kind of music they like, and now he's trying to use that, the kind of music, anything, whatever they like. He wants to start using that to draw them towards Christ. We'll be right back.